Good day, distance learning students. Unfortunately, the session that we were supposed to have on the 25th of March could not happen anymore because of the COVID-19 crisis in South Africa. And therefore, I decided to do an audio recording of my voice with a PowerPoint. So hopefully this will help a little bit when I explain the activities in this PowerPoint. Right, so from our previous session, I gave you a few due dates and we went through those, and this is just a gentle reminder about the formal writing activity 1, which is an online quiz based on the lesson plan phase requirements, and this quiz is due on the 30th of April. All of the information about this quiz is on ECI. The opening dates, it has been open for a long time, when it closes, the time it closes, all of that information is on ECI. So please make sure that you submit the quiz on time, because that portal will close and you will not be able to submit after the cutoff date and time. The second activity, the formal writing activity 2, this activity was also discussed at the previous session we had, so you can refer to the recording that was done on that day, and that recording will be available on ECI as well. So you can go and look at the information. You do have all the instructions with regards to this formal writing activity in your ITP assessment booklet, so you can just refer back to that. But just a reminder about the fact that this assignment is also due on the 30th of April. So please check the cutoff times and dates. And this portal has also been open for quite a while, so you can already submit that assignment. Please just be aware of the fact that you have to plan a life skills lesson plan, and that it should be from the beginning knowledge and personal and social well-being content area. You will get 0 if you planned a physical education lesson or a arts lesson from the life skills subject. You are only allowed to select a topic from your beginning knowledge and personal and social well-being content area. So please do not plan a language lesson or a life skill or a maths lesson, because we have had that in the past, where students just basically planned any lesson. So you will get 0 if you don't meet the requirements. You can read the instructions on page 12 of your ITP booklet. You will see that another important factor that you have to take into consideration is that the lesson needs to be planned for a term 3 lesson. And the reason why we included that was because we want to take in your lessons on the 30th, mark them, provide you with feedback, give them back to you so that you can then go and teach the lessons in term 3 when you're going to do your prac. So please make sure that you are meeting all requirements for this activity. Obviously at this stage, well, maybe you do know, hopefully you do know by now in which school you will be and in what grade you will teach, so that you can plan for that particular grade. If you don't know, it's not a train smash. You can plan a lesson if you are doing the diploma for grade R, if you're doing a degree for a grade 1, 2 or 3 class. It doesn't matter as long as it's for the correct grade. Right. Then we have a few due dates due on the 27th of May, and this PowerPoint is actually does actually focus on these activities. So in the rest of the PowerPoint, I will be discussing formal writing activity 3, which is the DVD viewing, formal writing activity 4, which is a maths game video, formal writing activity 5, which is an online quiz based on the maths lessons in your study guide, and then also all 9 of your informal writing activities need to be done and submitted on the 27th of May. So let's start off by looking at formal writing activity 3, and I will be going through some of the instructions, and I will be pointing out some important aspects about these activities for you. Right, so the first important thing is that you should have completed working through lessons 5 to 7 of your study guide before you can do formal writing activity 3. You will then have to watch a video of a teacher teaching a language lesson. The title of this video is Daily Letter Sound and Phonological Awareness Activities. It's a short video of about 7 minutes, and you will find the link to this video on ECI under Lesson 7 Resources. The link has been placed there for your convenience. And then you will answer the questions that you will find on pages 22 to 25, my apologies, in the ITP assessment booklet. You can write the answers down on pages 22 to 25 and then make copies of those pages and scan those pages in and save the pages, and then submit that to ECI, or otherwise you can use the electronic version on ECI of the ITP assessment booklet, and you can just select those pages from that booklet, and then you will be able to type your answers if you prefer doing so. So you've got one of two options: either writing the answers down in your ITP booklet, making photocopies of those pages, scanning that into your computer, and then saving it and then uploading it or on your ECI portal for those activities. You also please note that your teaching and activities in the video have been shortened. So you may have wondered how a lesson can only be 7 minutes long. They've shortened all the teaching sections or the phases and the activities that the learners were doing, just to give you a good idea of what the teacher planned for that lesson. So please take that into consideration, and don't use the fact that the lesson was quite short as a weakness of the lesson, etc. So it has been shortened for a reason, because it's quite daunting to watch a 40-minute or a 30-minute video and then answer questions based on that. So just take that into consideration. We are continuing with some of the instructions and things that I feel that is necessary for you to be reminded about. And the next thing is the fact that you will need your CAPS document to answer. It's actually only one of the questions from this activity, where you will definitely need your CAPS document available to answer that question. And yeah, so please make sure that you do have your CAPS document with you. Right, you will receive instructions about the submission on ECI. I have not yet created the portals for submission of the all the activities due on the 27th of May. I will be working on those portals early in April, and I will let you know as soon as the portals are available on ECI for you to upload the assignments due on the 27th of May. Right, some important tips with regards to formal writing activity 3. The first very important tip is for you to read through all the questions to ensure that you understand what is expected of you. I've written down 3 examples there, so you can see for instance that question 1 says name the content area from which the topic was chosen. If you don't know what a content area is, you need to sort that out before you start answering the questions. So go back to your study guide and go and look at the first few sections, and even in lesson 6 and 7, where we explain the content areas for languages. So make sure that you know what a content area is, because you can't answer the question if you don't know what I'm asking you. The same with question 3, where it says name 2 different assessment strategies that the teacher used during her lesson. If you don't know what an assessment strategy is, you won't know what to write down there. So, and the same with question 10. And these are just 3 examples that I'm using here. In question 10, they're asking you whether the teacher actually taught or facilitated the lesson. So I'm sure that all of you understand what teaching means, but do you understand what it means to facilitate a lesson? So I'm sure you understand now why I'm saying that you need to read through all your questions to make sure that you understand what is asked of you. So make sure that you know what I'm expecting you to write down as an answer. So this is a very important tip. A few more important tips for you to consider. When you write down the strengths and the weaknesses they ask from you in this activity, please make sure that you don't make use of vague statements like, for example, a strength of the lesson. Please don't just write down something like the teacher used resources in her lesson, or she gave the learners a variety of activities. That answer will not be good enough, because I need to have a clear understanding why you think that is a strength, or then when you get to the weaknesses, why you feel that was a weakness. So why is the use of resources a strength, and why was the several activities a strength? So you need to elaborate on that in that answer. So I've given you 2 examples there. So instead of just writing down as a strength the teacher used resources, you will add to that the teacher used a variety of resources which kept the learners interested. So I'm providing a reason why I think her use of resources was a strength, because I do feel that the variety of the resources kept her learners interested in her lesson. So I have a clear idea why the resources or the use of resources was seen as a strength. If you look at the second example there, instead of just writing down that the teacher gave the learners several activities to do, I have now added to that the teacher gave the learners several activities, and this reinforced the concept she taught. So once again, why do I see the fact that several activities was used during the lesson. Why do I see that as a strength? I see this as a strength because it reinforces the concept being taught, right? So these are just general examples that I'm pointing out to you. So please be aware that be aware of not making very vague statements. Be specific about why you feel it's a strength or a weakness. Then also revise your lesson phase requirements before answering the questions to make sure that you know what is required of an introduction, what is required when you write out your assessment strategies or your outcomes, etc. It will definitely benefit you if you are confident about the lesson phase requirements. Right, then also if you look at question 7, it says very clearly identify 4 posters, charts or other resources visible in the classroom. Please note it's very clearly states 4. So if you write down 5, 6 or 7, only the first 4 will be marked and the rest will be scratched out. So we will only mark the first 4 items, posters, charts, the resources that you wrote down in your answer. The rest will be ignored. Even if your first 4 was incorrect and your next 4 was correct, only the first 4 will be marked. Right, then another issue with regards to this particular question, if you are not 100% sure what you are looking at when you watch the video. So say for instance there's drawings or posters on the wall, but you're finding it very hard to figure out what the poster is all about. Sorry about that, there's a helicopter or something flying over my house at the moment, making a bit of a noise. Sorry about that. So yes, so let's just look at that again. So if you trying to look at a poster in the video, but it's difficult for you to figure out what exactly is on that poster, you're not sure if it's pictures of fruits or if it's pictures of vegetables, it's not clear. If you're not 100% sure what is on that poster, please do not use it. There's more than enough posters or charts or any other resources. Remember, it can be any other resource. It doesn't have to be a poster or a chart, but there's more than enough posters or charts in the classroom that you can see clearly. And if you're not sure, maybe you see something and you're not quite sure how to explain what you're seeing, just make sure that you explain clearly what you are referring to. Okay. Then also be careful with question 8 and 9. Question 8 says name one resource used in the lesson and identify during which phase of the lesson the resource was used. Okay, so that's fairly straightforward, but if you read question 9 says choose 3 resources and then, very important, different to the one mentioned above. Right, so you cannot use the resource that you listed in question 8. You cannot use that resource again in question 9. You have to choose 3 other resources in question 9. So please make sure that you don't lose marks because you didn't read your question properly and you're using the same resource that you've mentioned in question 8. You cannot do that. You will be penalized and you will lose marks. Right. So be careful of that. These are just some of the things students had problems with in previous years. Right, the next activity is formal writing activity 4. This is where you will have to design a fun maths game and you will have to video a presentation of how the game is played. So this formal writing activity 4 is based on the content of lessons 8 and 9 in your study guide. So you will have to choose any content area from the subjects of maths. This, the content areas are revised in lessons 8 and 9. We mentioned the 5 content areas for maths, the subject of maths again. So you are allowed to choose content areas from the maths subject. So please choose the content area. It can come from different content areas. You will see later on that we actually want you to create a game that has more than one purpose. So therefore you may select 2 different content areas for your game. Please make sure that your game is age appropriate. Some of you will be teaching in grade R classes and some of you will be teaching in grade 1, 2 and 3 classes. So please take that into consideration. The game should be used as an independent activity for your particular grade. If you've worked through lessons 8 and 9, you should know what independent activities are. If you look at your maths lesson plan, you will see that the independent activities are part of the development phase of the maths lesson plan, and those are the activities that learners will do at their desks. They will work on their own independently at their desks while the teacher is busy teaching a small group of learners on the carpet, for instance. So please ensure that you have created a game and not merely an activity. Please remember there's a huge difference between a game and just a normal activity that you would give the learners to do in the classroom every day. A game usually has a winner. So an activity is just a worksheet or a work card that learners normally do, and there's a huge difference between the two. So please ensure that you have created a game and that there will somehow be a winner at the end of playing the game. Remember that independent activities are activities based on familiar work, so learners should be able to do them on their own independently while the teacher is busy with other learners. And this does not mean that the learners doing the independent activity must play the game individually. You can create a game that a group of learners can play. So it doesn't matter if you want to create a game that only one person can play. Just remember there must be some form of winning, right? So even if you compete against yourself, if you for instance playing a game and you've completed level 1, then you can go on to level 2 and then level 3. So you can do that, but think very carefully before creating a game for an individual person. You can create a game that can be played in groups. Don't let the fact that we refer to it as an independent activity confuse you with regards to how many members are allowed to play the game, right? So independent activities only means that learners can do this on their own. That's all. Then, once you've designed and made the game, you will have to make a short video in which you both explain and demonstrate how this game should be played. And please note that your explanation should contain very clear instructions, and you will eventually then upload your link of your YouTube video that you created. You'll upload that link to ECI. I will provide you with a how-to guide of how to create a YouTube video, and I will also then provide the information about where you will upload the link on ECI. So students, just before I go on to the next point about what you have to do when you start off with your video, I want to say an important thing, and that is, when you make your video, make sure that you stand in a area or in a place where it's quiet and where there's enough light. Please don't stand in a hallway where people are passing all the time, and because you must just remember, if I can't hear what you are saying and I can't see what you are showing me on the video, I can't assess your video appropriately. And I'm not going to ask you to please do it again. Surely you will look at your video and listen to your video to see if it's clear, and to listen and to figure out for yourself if the person marking this video can actually hear what was said. So please make sure that it's clear, that when you show parts of your game, that you zoom in on the board or you zoom in on the cards, so that the person marking the game can actually see the board from up close and can see your playing cards, or the numbers you have written down on the board or on the cards. We need to see everything. So you may want to start off by actually introducing your game and actually zooming in and showing us all the different parts of your game before you get to the point of demonstrating how to play it. And there you can also do it in different ways. You can ask your brother and sister to play the game while you talk us through that and explain how to play the game while they're actually demonstrating it. Or you can demonstrate it yourself if you want to. That's your choice. Just please note that you are not allowed to use learners in your classroom because of ethical reasons. So those are just a few important points. Then there it says right in the middle of the slide, begin your video by stating the following in relation to your game. So when you start, write this information down on a piece of paper so that you can read it off the paper, and you can even zoom in on this information in your video, showing me this information, like the grade that you will be playing this game with, the term in which you will use this, the content area, the topic or topics, the learning and development value it provides, and also the CAPS page number from which you selected your topic. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bullets there. So you need to state all of that when you start your game, before you start your game. So my advice would be to make it easier for you, write all of that information down on a piece of paper, zoom in on it, so you're showing it to me and you're also reading it. And you're also reading it to me, right? So please make sure that you do have all of that information, because if you have all of that information, you already have 5 points, 5 marks, not points, 5 marks. So valuable for you to make sure that you get all the marks you can possibly get. Then also carefully work your way through the rubric on page 27 of your ITP assessment booklet. This rubric will be used by the Stadio assessor. So you need to carefully work your way through all the criteria so that you know what requirements you have to meet. So please make sure that you meet the requirements of the criteria on that rubric. Please note that it will definitely be to your advantage if your game has more than one function. Your marks will be limited if it only has one function. And please note, by more than one function, I don't mean adding and subtraction. That is not more than one function, that's one function, right? So I'm talking about, for instance, you can create a game where learners will be doing adding and subtraction, but they can also maybe in some way you can incorporate identification of shapes and their characteristics. That is more than one function. So please don't think that your game has two functions if you can do adding and subtraction, because that will be incorrect. Also, make sure that you give clear instructions of all the uses of the game. So if there's 2 different uses or 3 different uses of the game, make sure that you explain all the uses of the game. Please make sure that you show us the rules of the game written down on cards, because this will ensure that the learners can use the cards over and over and over again. You can write your rules on a piece of paper, but we do suggest that you laminate it so that it will last. Otherwise, the kids will use it once or twice and it will be torn and dirty, etc. So it is a good idea to laminate your rule cards to make them last. Please ensure that you use an appropriate font and font size for all words and numbers used in your game. And please note, students, that there is a criteria for on the rubric that involves us seeing evidence of numbers written in digits and words in the video. So you will get 0 for this criteria if we cannot see the written the numbers written in digits or words clearly in your video. Note that you will also be penalized if you use bought items, except for dice. We don't expect you to make your own dice. You can buy a dice or use one from one of your games. When I refer to bought items, I am not referring to you buying a piece of a wooden plank or some paint or a plastic bucket or something like that that you will use to create your game. When I refer to bought items, I'm referring to buying a game board that already exists, or you going out and you buying dominoes, and you use the domino blocks in your game. So you're not allowed to do that because you will be penalized if you use that. You need to make your own, create your own game. The only thing that you can buy for use in your game is a dice. So originality is also one of the requirements. You will see that it's one of the criteria. So it's definitely a better idea not to go and borrow concepts from Snakes and Ladders, unless you take the concept but you change it quite drastically. But originality is a requirement. So please look at your criteria very carefully on the rubric. Right, formal writing activity 5. This is an online quiz, and you can attempt this quiz after working through lessons 8 and 9. The quiz is based on the academic readings about maths. These links to the readings are available on ECI, and they are from lesson 8. So when you work your way through lesson 8 in your study guide, you will see that we refer to the links. The links have been placed on ECI for you to access. So you will have to work through the academic readings and make sure that you have a good idea of what's going on in that academic reading, and then also make sure that you familiarize yourself with the content of lesson 8 and 9 before you attempt the quiz. You must achieve 75% for the quiz to pass. If you fail to achieve 75%, you can redo the quiz. So it's not just one attempt, you have more than one attempt when you're doing this quiz. Right, so those are the 5 formal activities that, well, I discussed 1 and 2 in the first session I had with the distance learning students. And I've discussed 3, 4, and 5 now. But you are also aware that you have 9 developmental writing activities. Please do all of these activities. These activities are basically the class tasks that my contact learning students would normally do, that I've changed into developmental writing activities for the distance learning students. These activities reinforce the concepts from the different lessons that you work through, so I do suggest that you work through all of them and that you complete all of them. You will get 10 marks if you completed all of them. At the back of your ITP assessment booklet, you have the answers for developmental writing activity 1, 5, and 8, but we will select 2 of the other activities. So that means activity 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7. So we will select 2 of those activities and we will mark those for 10 marks each. So 2 of your developmental activities will be marked for 10 marks each. So they will basically count as formal writing activities in the end. Okay, so in the end your developmental activities will count 30 marks. And you can see that on the mark sheet in your ITP assessment booklet. So just a reminder, 10 marks allocated for completion of all the activities. One of the activities will get 2 marks. If you completed all 9 developmental activities, you will get 10 marks there. And then 2 of the developmental activities will be selected, and we will mark each one of the 2, and they will carry a weighting of 10 marks each, which gives you the 13 marks then allocated for the developmental writing activities in total. Right, so unfortunately, because this is not a face-to-face session like it was supposed to be, I can't ask questions now, but if you do have any questions about these activities, then please don't hesitate to ask. Like I said, I will be creating the portals for the submission of these activities early in April, so that you have ample time to upload the activities. But remember, all formal or developmental activities, doesn't matter, either way, you have the option of writing them out on the pages in your ITP assessment booklet, but that means you will have to make copies of those pages. You'll have to scan it in and email it you'll have to scan it in and save it as a Word document, and then you will have to upload that. The other option is to go and look for the Word document of your ITP assessment booklet that I placed on ECI a while back, and you can then go and look for the activity there and then type the answers if you prefer doing that, and save the document for submission then on ECI. Good luck with all these activity, students, and please make sure that you meet the deadlines, because that portal closes at a specific date and time, and you will get 0 if you haven't submitted on time. Good luck, and looking forward to marking your first 2 activities that are due on the 30th of April. Thank you, students. Bye-bye.